What's up, everybody? I'm Jared Fearing. Welcome to episode 12 of Godzillatober, and you might be wondering why I'm a cartoon. Well, the protagonist in Godzilla vs. Gigan is in fact a manga artist, so I felt it was only appropriate to go the animated route. Let's go! Hey everybody, thanks for watching. I'm Jared Fearing. I'm a lifelong Godzilla fan and a big fan of Halloween. And nothing says Halloween like monster movies. So this year, for the month of October, we're going to review every single Godzilla movie, from Gojira all the way to Godzilla and Kong: The New Empire. So join me this month for a new video every single day and see if I go insane in the process. Let's get to it. In Japan, this movie came out in 1972, but this movie actually didn't come out in the US until 1977, and the order of film releases gets shifted quite a bit, so there's actually movies that come out after this that are released in the US before this. Godzilla vs. Gigan is also known as Godzilla on Monster Island. Great title. He's really not on Monster Island very much. In fact, it's mostly just a scene of him walking into the ocean, but that's okay. I love the title. It's great. The dub for this movie is excellent. It's really strange to me that some of these movies have really horrific dubs, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, and some of them have really excellent dubs, this and Son of Godzilla. You hear a lot of familiar voices, so I think it was kind of one or a few companies doing most of these dubs, so it's just surprising that there's such a wide range of quality. Like I said, the main character is a struggling cartoonist or manga artist, and he tries to get a job at Monster Tower, which is a gigantic tower shaped like Godzilla, and goddamn is it ever sweet. If I ever get multi-billion-dollar wealth, I'm gonna build this goddamn Godzilla tower. It looks incredible, and later on it fires laser beams and stuff, so I want it to be able to do that too in my version. Anyways, he gets hired for this job because he pitches some ideas about different monsters, and they're like, yeah, whatever, we'll take you. I'm not really sure what their mock business that they were running out of there was anyway. They claim that they want it to be a monster museum, and he was going to do some art for it or something. It's not really important. It's all just baloney because they're aliens. That's right, aliens again. The constant foe of the Godzilla series. But you know what? It's just such an easy scapegoat to be like, God damn it, the aliens hate us and they're coming back and bringing different monsters with them. It's an easy story plot, and you know what? It's totally fine. I like it. These aliens are cockroaches, by the way. They come from a planet where they say that they've destroyed it with pollution, and now they're coming to Earth to basically do the same thing. It's fine, and it kind of fits in with the things that we saw in Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster in the last movie, but whatever, it's a very minor point here. There's no environmentalism or messages here, aside from a very short soliloquy with one of the aliens spouting off about pollution. But then we get right back to the monster stuff. This movie introduces the new monster, Gigan, who's actually one of my favorite Showa designs. I actually have him right here. This is a figure that I bought while I was in Japan because I'm such a fan of this cool design. He's got hook hands, he's got like a foghorn leghorn face, he's got a buzzsaw in his belly, he's kind of a chicken, kind of a... I don't know what things have 3 wings and a tail, but he's those things as well. So he's supposed to actually be a cyborg, I think, or an android. But anyway, great design. One of my favorite monster designs. Despite introducing a completely new monster, this movie has a surprisingly large amount of reused footage. That's really the only thing I would take away from this movie, is that a lot of the monster scenes are stock footage from previous movies. And on the listing, if you check out which monsters are in this movie, it actually lists like Mothran and Gorosaurus, and they're not really in it. They're shown from stock footage that was from Destroy All Monsters, which was already using stock footage. So that's a little bit frustrating, and you know what, it might not matter. I'm watching all these movies in a row so I can make this series, but if you just pick this as a one-off, you might not ever know the difference, so maybe that's not really something to be upset about. Once again, we see the story plot about sound having to do with aliens and causing them problems, whereas in Invasion of the Astro Monster, the sound is kind of the thing that made the aliens go nuts. Here, the aliens are trying to track down a girl who stole a tape from the aliens. She suspected that they had kidnapped her brothers, which they had, and she steals this tape and they play it and they're like, I don't know what that is. It sounds like just weirdo backwards radio sounds. But actually, it's a transmission that reaches Godzilla and Anguirus on Monster Island, and then it has one of the franchise best moments where Godzilla and Anguirus talk to one another. In Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, there's a scene where the monsters kind of talk to one another, but they're just really growling, and then Mothra's little fairies are doing the translating and saying what's happening. In this movie, they actually talk. They were given a dub, so they have kind of like a monster voice. It's kind of hard to describe. And the Japanese version, they got actually little like comic bubbles. It's really weird to see that they're having the monsters have like actual conversations, but you know what? 10-year-old me loves it, so we're gonna let it go. There's some really nice aquatic scenery where Godzilla and Anguirus are going through the ocean, and then at one point Anguirus approaches the shore and the military have set up basically a barricade. And we get some shots here that are some of the very best in the series in terms of military miniatures. The tanks look great, the maser cannons look great, they have some spotlights on Anguirus. The whole scene is like visually very exciting from an effects point of view. There's a nice little shout out to martial arts earlier in the film where they make a point of mentioning that one of the girls is a karate black belt, and then later she beats up some guys with karate. It's pretty sweet. I just wanted to, give a shout out to martial arts because it's the best. The aliens get their plot kind of revealed and they call for backup, and they bring in King Ghidorah, who appears in his ball of flame, which is super sweet and we've seen in a bunch of other movies. But then we see Gigan appear in the form of a diamond, and then he explodes out of it. It's super metal and everybody loves it. When Ghidorah and Gigan arrive on Earth, they actually have one of the only scenes in the recent movie stretch of the Showa era where it's the monsters explicitly destroying the cities. Oftentimes we get like a scene here or there where, Godzilla and King Kong are destroying Osaka Castle or something of that nature, very specific one scene, and then it's usually the monsters fighting. There's an extended scene of Ghidorah and Gigan just destroying a city, melting tanks with their electric beam from Ghidorah, Gigan turning on his stomach buzzsaw and just like thrusting into a building. This movie isn't that serious. There's in fact a few little jokes that are pretty fun, and one of my favorite points is the manga artist basically gets held up and the guy has something in his back that he thinks is a gun, and it turns out to be this dude just eating tinfoil corn on the cob, which I don't know, maybe that's more common in Japan, but I've not really heard of it. I think it's just kind of funny. But this movie balances the funny stuff with the ultra traumatic. This is the very first movie in the series where we see Godzilla bleed. Actual blood, and man is it bloody. There's a scene where he just shoots a jet of Quentin Tarantino blood straight into the air. And it has a scene that really messed me up as a kid, which is Anguirus is fighting Gigan. Gigan turns on his stomach buzzsaw, and Anguirus is just like, buzzsaw, my head's harder than that, and he runs straight into it, and blood is actually sprayed at the camera. It's actually super intense and like really, really bloody. It's pretty crazy that they snuck that into this film, but whatever. I mean, I guess it's trying to emphasize that the monsters are having like a really intense life or death battle. And at one point, Godzilla is just like KO'd on the ground, covered in blood, left to die basically. And then he gets his second wind, and you know what? He's able to kind of take control of the situation. The humans manage to blow up Godzillatober, which breaks my heart because I love it. But by destroying Godzillatober, the aliens are killed and they lose control over Ghidorah and Gigan. And once those two aren't being controlled, apparently they're just idiots, and Godzilla takes them to school. It takes one of my favorite moments in the series, which is Godzilla hanging on to King Ghidorah from behind, and then Anguirus just whipping his spiked shell at him over and over again. It's interesting that we see one monster holding another one while the other one doesn't attack, because that comes back right away in like the very next film, actually. This movie did the whole aliens controlling King Ghidorah thing again, which has, you know, been done several times. But this didn't feel like it was trying to retread the same ground. It felt like it was elevating the idea while having some fun callbacks to earlier in the series. There's also a moment near the end where Gigan, I believe, destroys a really odd building that looks almost like it's made out of Lego. It's kind of square and blocky. But there's actually a famous building, or there was, I think it got taken down now, but there was a famous building in Tokyo that actually kind of looked like that, and it was a famous capsule hotel. So when you see that odd building, it looks like a play set, but there is some odd architecture like that throughout Japan. So, you know, I guess I have a better appreciation of that now as an adult than as a kid, when I was just like, buildings don't look like that, don't be ridiculous. All in all, I love this movie. It's a lot of fun. The human story is very forgettable, but there's some fun moments. He draws some like interesting cartoons that are supposed to be monsters. There's a couple little humorous things that actually are chuckle worthy. And it's a fun movie. The monster scenes are great. This is actually the Godzilla that is probably my favorite design of the Showa era, and now he's going to kind of look like this through the next few movies. There's not going to be that many changes as we go forward. But all in all, I highly recommend it. I really enjoy it. Like, they keep doing the aliens controlling King Ghidorah line of thought, but they do it better here than they have in the past. When it comes to the aliens being villains, I think Invasion of the Astro Monster is number 1, and I think this is number 2. So highly recommended. Go enjoy Godzilla vs. Gigan, or Godzilla on Monster Island, which I like that title better. It's a great movie. You'll really enjoy it, especially if you're looking for like prime Showa era content. You could easily jump in with this one, and it would be a great starting point for you. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Come back next time for Godzilla vs. Megalon, another very odd movie like Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. So I'm really excited to talk about that. And as always, like, subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you like Godzilla vs. Gigan. I really hope you do, because I certainly do. I'll see you all next time.